Welcome to another edition of Consensus Unreality. Before we get to tonight's episode, I'm going to ask you to check out patreon.com/consensusunreality, where you can access our full episode archive, 6 years worth, 2 exclusive Patreon episodes monthly, written content, a Discord server, and more. Plus, if you sign up to our print club tier, you get access to our Journal of Shells quarterly magazine mailed to your doorstep, along with other bonus printed and recorded materials. The Journal of Shells contains curated archival and new writings and artworks. Very excited about this. It focuses on the paranormal, ufological, and esoteric subjects that we cover on the show, and we're able to explore that in a different form of media. We also just released our Other Ritual t-shirt, which is available at the Big Cartel link in the bio. Thank you for listening. As always, thank you for all of your support. We deeply appreciate it. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to another edition of Consensus Unreality. We've got a special episode tonight, the first in hopefully many of the Squonk cast. Squonk, or was that what we're calling it?
I thought it was Squonk Talk.
Squonk. All right, A, it's not Squawk. B, Squonk Talk. Yeah, I like that.
I don't know what the Squonk is still. I guess we'll
tell you in a minute. We are joined, of course, by Timothy Grieve-Carlson. Timothy Grieve-Carlson.net for that stuff. Reoccurring guest there. And, of course, another reoccurring guest in Tanner F. Boyle. Getting Spooked. Tanner F. Boyle. What is the Substack linkage? .substack.com?
You can just go to gettingspooked.com and it'll pop you there.
There you go. Happy to have these guys. This is a Pennsylvania crosscast here, the one everybody's been waiting for. Pennsylvania, a very enchanted state for those that may not know. The Squonk, of course, is our own cryptid, kind of a sad, ugly figure who apparently melts into a pile of its own tears. How do you guys feel about that? Just to jump in here.
Well, one thing I'm curious about is if there's ever been a squonk sighting. Has anyone ever actually claimed to see a squonk? Because I know that it came out of that book, Fearsome Creatures of the Lumberwoods. But I don't know if anyone has ever actually claimed to have bumped into one of these things, you know?
No, it sounds like an imaginary friend that, like, somebody, like, the niece of the person who wrote that book probably was just, it just doesn't, yeah, but that's great.
Well, you know something crazy? The squonk is actually in Borges's, I forget the exact title, the Dictionary of Imaginary Beings. Mm-hmm. Borges, like, dwells on the squonk for a little while, and he's like, I forget exactly what he says, but he finds it like a very, like, poetic and resonant image.
Yeah, it's a very Borgesian kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of cryptid that you just hear more than see even. Although it does have a pig-like kind of loose skin appearance to it. Mm-hmm. And this is the mascot of our crosscast here. So let's put it on a hat, you know?
Well, I should have remembered this because I do have a Squonk hat.
They beat us to the punch?
Well, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, I forget where that team actually is, but they did a night where they were the Squonk.
Oh,
really?
Shit, I love that.
I love the pigs.
Yeah, you gotta go over
there. That's
your
like regional team, dude.
Where are the Lehigh Valley?
They're in Allentown. Yeah.
Oh, are they?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right over here. I didn't know they did a Squonk. Well, they do a lot of nights. They were like the Corgis or something. Like they just changed. They don't seem to have any real identity. When really they're an iron pig. That's cool. They should just stick with that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you guys
I thought we had another cryptid though, didn't we?
Well, we've got tons of
we had tons.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
What else do we have? Tim, this is your area.
I mean, like recently, the Albatwitch has become kind of like a famous PA cryptid. That's like a short, diminutive, almost like Fey-like Bigfoot creature. And it's sort of interesting because it's definitely connected to PA Dutch folklore, but there's a bunch of different words so there's Elbadrich, Albatwitch, and it's hard to figure out exactly what they all refer to. And there's all these traditions of like Elbadrich hunts, which are like snipe hunts, where basically like if a group of people are hanging around, they will sort of suggest to someone who is like new to the group, hey, let's go snipe hunting. And then they send this guy on a wild goose chase, and he ends up like with a pillowcase running around the woods looking for this thing that's not out there. But definitely there are a lot of people who say they see albatwitches, especially around like southern Lancaster County and York County.
Huh. I didn't know that.
There's got to be other like classic PA cryptids too.
I think Pennsylvania is an interesting category because it seems like the cryptids have a basis in like sort of like deep folklore as opposed to like a random sighting in 1960s, you know, like say like a Mothman or a Flatwoods Monster. These are all kinds of like legendary beings as opposed to, you know, somebody saw the Dover Demon once and now that's how we'll draw everybody to our town. It feels a little bit purer, I would say.
Yeah. There's got to be a history of Wendigo sightings in PA too, right?
It's a good question. I don't know if I've heard of any.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a little more north. But maybe, I mean, and I thought there was something in the Poconos too. I thought they had something. But, well, I guess I didn't prepare with a list of PA.
Cancel the episode. It's not without its shortage, of course, of UFO sightings and mystical heroes, I guess, as well. You guys have been doing a Pittsburgh UFO club, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, we started this summer. The idea was basically just to create some events where we can have like speakers and like a regular reading group. And Tanner very graciously spoke at our first event at Fungus Books in June. That was awesome. Tanner, what's the title of your talk that's on Substack?
It's called The Disclosure Conundrum. Sort of looking at the contradictions within the very idea of disclosure as a thing. I feel like you guys kind of get into that a little bit sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah, I would say in the past year we've kind of...
I want to make clear, too, that the UFO Club is all Tim. Tim has put his heart and soul into this. I am merely a guy who is happy that there's a UFO Club in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you're a good ace in the hole, though, because you're like a resident disclosure watch, you know? I feel like you've got the disclosure pipeline.
Yeah, you're the watchman. Yeah. I guess we're going to have to talk a little bit about the current state of UFOs, too, tonight. The state of the...
They're pretty good. Awesome. Everything seems good.
Everything just seems to have fallen apart since David left us.
Which one?
Yeah.
Which one, indeed?
Yeah.
Which one, indeed?
Oh, any David, you mean?
Well, all right.
Oh, so there's Fravor and...
I'm just kidding.
Still a little raw, Ben.
It's not raw.
I was thinking David Lynch.
But... Yeah.
I know.
Is Huggins still alive?
Yeah, he's still kicking.
Okay.
I believe so.
Good. Yeah. So yeah, I saw this tweet earlier today from the Congressman Eric Burleson. Did you see this? I don't think so. You mentioned that we were kind of like get into this disclosure stuff too, but I would say in the past year we kind of experienced a lot of the end result of exhaustion of like the disclosure. Not that it was already there, but it just, I don't know, couldn't keep chasing that carrot, even though It wasn't
Right.
really a carrot. Yeah, he could. Ben on the other hand,
I think it's fine.
Yeah, dreams that stuff.
No, it's true. It is. It's exhausting. You know, it's exhausting. I mean,
yeah, but I appreciate what you do, Tanner, because it's still moving along, even so, as we've kind of fall off the wagon or whatever. But yeah, this Eric Burleson, the congressman from Missouri, said our own agencies went back through every past sighting, asked what draws these things in, then recreated those conditions on purpose at a site with prior activity. CIA, FBI, and military intelligence were all on site. Something showed up.
Are you talking about Skinwalker Ranch?
I mean, it's intentionally vague, as it always is, right?
Something showed up.
I think he gets into orb stuff
Chat
after
GPT
that.
cadence.
Yeah. It is real trailer-esque for sure.
Yeah, I saw Burleson too was trying to force the MITRE Corporation? I don't actually know how it's pronounced.
Yeah,
it's MITRE.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're subject to FOIA because they're an independent nonprofit group.
They're cool.
It's not. They're like government funded, but I don't think they're a government agency, so I don't think the same rules apply.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that great.
Well,
you just keep asking. That's what we'll do.
Yeah, I saw, and you were talking about how somebody was getting at the heart of what is called the mothership of the orbs or something out in the sea.
Oh, right. Oh, that was like back during the drone panic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget which congressman that was. But they were like, it's actually an Iranian mothership that all these drones are coming out of. But
that's cool. I remember that. Yeah, that is.
I mean, that's an interesting one too, because that's like something that Trump kind of promised he would explain. The Biden administration won't tell you, but I'll tell you what the drones are, folks.
Yeah. And we know what it is. Yeah.
And then he was like, I think they did come out and say it was like largely nothing. It was just drone tests, which I don't think satisfied anybody.
No.
Actually, Tim, do you remember what his explanation was?
No, I don't remember the explanation. I mean, I remember something to the effect of nothing to see here, but yeah, we were testing some drones, and then basically you people became hysterical, and that was kind of the explanation that was trotted out, if I remember correctly. But I think that there were a lot of like videos of what appeared to be like drones or lights in formation, which would be pretty alarming to see in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that was like an interesting case because I feel like you were very much forced to be on one side or the other, which was like, these people are just dumb hicks who are mistaking passenger aircraft for drones. Or on the other side, you had like, it's actually UFOs pretending to be drones. Whereas, I don't know, like my supposition was that it was probably like literally drone testing to see like reactions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because that seemed to be the only like that was the only like tangible result from the whole thing was like I've got a pretty good gauge on how the public would react to something like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know though.
Yeah, I guess I don't know that whole even rehashing that moment in time to me I agree with you. It just seemed like some sort of exercise, and that it's exercising multiple things at the same time, whether the technology and also the public reaction of that. But I'm curious what you think of the sort of the next evolution in the Pasulka religious UFO moment. I'm sure you have you read the new book yet, or you're...
I actually have it right beside me, but the bookmark's still in the front of it, so I haven't.
Gotcha. The hardcover there, nice.
I haven't made that dive yet.
Yeah, I haven't read the new one yet either.
Yeah, you're not missing too much. It's fine.
I did hear there was like more teal stuff
Tons of teal stuff.
Yeah, that's a bit frustrating. But
there's like a bit of nuance to it, but you know, it's in there. A lot of Rene Girard, a lot of childhood's end
Hmm.
feels, and then a lot of Deschardin and stuff like that. It's kind of, yeah.
Well, I bring it up because, transitioning out of the NJ drones thing, it feels like the conversation about actual orbs and drones and stuff is always just tethered to clandestine military operations. And to me, the conversation just gets boring because it feels like that's really what it's always the meat of that. But then there's this whole other thing with this, new pseudo religious movement that, and in her books, it's the conversation has never even really been much about UFOs in the first place. There's kind of exotic elements and materials in the first book, but quickly in the second and now this book, it's really more about this metaphysical relationship with other intelligences, and which is obviously even harder to confirm any truth of. But
Yeah.
Especially in relation to like AI development.
Yeah.
Right, which is always sort of like speculative and in the future, and very, very optimistic, even in books like this, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's not in there as much as the subtitle promises. It's in there, but it's an interesting approach to it. And I think it remains very, very skeptical, or not skeptical, speculative.
Mhm.
I remain skeptical, but
sure. Yeah, I kind of remember our conversation with you, Tanner, and the distinction of like downloads and the way that Tim Taylor, that's his name, right?
well, it's Tyler D.
Yeah.
But it's pretty clear it's Tim Taylor for the most part.
Yeah.
And yeah, I read his book.
Oh,
how
no
is it?
kidding.
What was that?
How is it?
It reads like it's a pretty normal like self-published entrepreneur book. I'm kind of shocked. Well, I mean, there's nothing about like non-human intelligence in it, which I think is odd, right? Because it tells the same story that he gives to Pasulka and Bledsoe and countless other people. But there's no non-human intelligence in it. There's barely a religious element to it because I expected there to be like even just like Christian leanings, but that's it's a very small proportion of it. And I don't know. I find that guy odd.
Do you think?
Let's say odd. And
Yeah.
he popped up recently in who's the tall whites guy? Is that Charles Hall?
It's Richard Charles. It's Hall. Yeah,
Richard Hall's an old nightcap guy. I think it must be
that
Charles.
must be Charles. Yeah, it's one of the halls. Kids in the hall.
Apparently Taylor was nosing around that guy too. So
Huh.
so he's like engaging with different experiencers in a way. I mean, if Bledsoe's any indication, I think it's in a way that's particularly dangerous to the idea of an experiencer.
Hmm.
Dangerous for them psychologically and well, not to get I'm not going to get on the high horse, but I don't know. I feel like even if he's not like the prototypical Mirage man, it's still, it's a rabbit trail. You're not sure if there's any way out of it.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I loved about the piece that you did for the UFO Club, Tanner, and also is on your Substack, is how you sort of do point out, amidst all this sort of Mirage Man stuff and all of this like clear kind of like intelligence interference with and like deliberately sort of like disinformation that has been spread about the UFO phenomenon, there is kind of, I don't want to put words in your mouth, and maybe you can say it better than I can, but a there to some extent, or a rabbit trail that leads somewhere, right? Or I guess one way to put it might be if Richard Doty, if no one ever saw a UFO, right, Richard Doty's job would be a lot harder.
Right. No. I agree with that contention. And I mean, you can probably say it better than I can, because I'm a much better writer than I am a speaker. So let's, there's that. But no, I think that is why it's such an attractive topic. It's something that really resonates with people and affects them in very profound ways. And I think there's many other things, not like exact analogs, but there's certainly other things that have been utilized by the intelligence community, uh, because of that sort of like profound quality where people are very into it, and it changes their. Because I don't know, I've done a lot of thinking about MK Ultra lately.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my issue, I think, and there's a lot of strangely like MK Ultra people in at least tangentially are sort of the UFO disinformers, and I sort of wonder, like, is that because they know there's a way in which this affects the psychology in a particular kind of way? But I'll rant about that forever. So I better to cut it off at the nub.
Well, no,
That's
it's
cool.
interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
the like my sort of, without having read too much into MK Ultra, other than the Chaos book that came out a few years ago, is what I think makes the UFO phenomena really attractive to the intelligence agencies. It's just this enormously ambiguous thing that you can spin all sorts of like narratives and webs and stories about. And with MK Ultra, I mean, maybe perhaps the two things are just really attractive to the hucksters who happen to be in the intelligence agencies at the time, the guys who were really sort of like into that sort of thing, or also, this idea of like mind control, and the mind itself is also like this high ambiguity topic that actually controlling someone's mind is way less important than throwing up a whole bunch of sand and convincing people that you've controlled some minds, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just thinking that perhaps the sort of MK Ultra subgenre of research is in its own way like the UFO subculture, a
Mm-hmm.
intelligence tampered with.
Oh, it
Yeah.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
Like there are MK Ultra Mirage men as well.
For sure. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I just read the book The Franklin Scandal, which I find
Ooh. Yeah.
not to bring us down, but
Go
This
ahead.
was supposed to be a fun episode.
what I liked about Bryant's book is that and this is obviously a conscious decision because he's aware of it, he does not touch the monarch stuff. He's like, I'm not gonna mention that one bit. Kathy O'Brien, get out of here.
That's pretty big. With who was the one guy who like really did a lot of the telling of that, the one like victim.
Well,
He was
that's
like talking a lot about Monarch and stuff like that,
Paul
right?
Bonacci
Right.
is whoever allowed a Kathy O'Brien newsletter to make its way to his cell in Nebraska. I don't think there's a hotter place in hell. If I'm, that's sort of my takeaway from the book.
Interesting. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it is similar, and it's sometimes the same people because I think like Kit Green is obviously kind of both. He has a foot in both realms, where he is looking at potential mind control technology. I'll put that in quotes. as like a private citizen, and then he's also doing the UFO stuff, and it seems to have, uh, brief intersections here and there.
Yeah, so that kind of, I mean, if I were to ask a question about what sort of the point of that steering the conversation in that way, in term, at least as far as Pasulka and that stuff goes, although I'm not really sure exactly what her place in it all is, but I think putting together what you guys are saying, the UFO question, probably from its inception, is inherently a spiritual object for humanity, and I think that's why we project into it so easily, but then it's also becomes this object to manipulate and whatever. And I mean, then, sort of framing it in this new way, and venerating, people like Teal and stuff, it works to create this new techno religion that can be overlaid over what's to come politically and stuff. At least, and I'm not saying there's not 50 different other things that it's being used for at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think Tim kind of mentioned that too, that it is just kind of whatever somebody wants it to be at a given time. It has a lot of different utilities. And I think in the midst of that, you kind of lose I mean, that's sort of like why I do what I do. Not that I have like a mission statement or anything, but I get a little upset about like the fact that all the magic is being sucked out of it. And I don't mean that like like the chaos magic kind of way. I mean it like the childhood wonder kind of way.
Sure.
Be cool if you did, though. That'd be a crazy turn if you were just into chaos magic now.
Well, wasn't one of someone fact check me on this, but wasn't one of the UFO images that the government released like the chaos magic symbol?
Oh, there was I don't know about that, but there possibly
it was similar for sure.
There was one of the whistleblowers also released like John D. Enochian
like
charts
Matthew
and stuff.
Brown?
Yeah.
You've been following his stuff? I kind of dropped off.
It's like, what are you going to listen to these guys on Danny Brown and get like 70
the rapper
pill commercials?
Danny Jones. Let's
Danny
put some
Jones,
respect
my
on
bad.
Danny Brown's name.
My bad, guys.
I wouldn't be surprised if Danny Brown started like a podcast like that. No, that'd be cool. I'd listen to that. Yeah. What did I listen to? Well, I listened to Pasulka and Joe Rogan, which we kind of covered a little bit in our episode on it. And that whole angle of the whole thing is really interesting to me. Because he's not exactly like, I mean, maybe he is. He's not exactly in like the Teal like wagon. Maybe he is.
Well,
but
I think he doesn't know
right
who he works for at all times.
He doesn't know who
that's
he is.
Fair. Yeah.
But that like the sort of
he's like a living high ambiguity
voice.
Situation. Like I was just like he's a human like ambiguous thing. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
No, he is, but yeah, just that whatever that thing is, the podcast thing, the Danny Browns of the world, as it were. Yeah, just the way they've kind of latched onto both the conspiracy thing. I think me and Dave both just recently listened to a Greg Carlwood on, was that Danny Jones?
Mm-hmm.
Talking about like Blanky Blankman and the late,
a lot of interesting stuff in there. Yeah,
researcher. But just like the way that the whole thing like has sort of been turned into this I don't know, endlessly churning like entertainment thing.
Conspiratainment, yeah, for sure.
But like to what end? Because there's so much money in it, so you know that it's being angled politically somehow. And so that makes me wonder about the the behavior modification angle of conspiracy research.
Expansion of the Overton window.
I don't know.
Yeah, and it could be, I mean, I could be dead wrong about this, but I mean, my hunch is that the disclosure idea is just so perfect for like the steady drip of like podcast, stay tuned for the next episode, the next thing is
Sure.
coming. You need to subscribe because it's coming, kind of thing that in some ways it might just be like people chasing the algorithm and chasing what
Yeah.
these sort of communication systems are kind of built for.
It
And
attracts like the savvy among us.
yeah.
Yeah,
Or even the non-savvy rise to the top because this subject is sort of like perfect for this kind of thing, you
It's
know?
like a serial, it's like a modern day radio serial.
true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's hard for me to imagine because it's gets really uninteresting really fast. But all these episodes have like 1.2 million views, so you can't really discount that.
Can't argue with that.
You can't argue with the numbers, Benny boy. I would just push back a little bit and say, I guess the disclosure thing has been happening, a while before our current social media moment, and
Hmm.
even going back to like 2016, 2017, I don't think the podcast sphere was as large as it is and stuff. But it's
Yeah.
true. I mean, there are so many shows now that are centered around that kind of stream of whistleblowers and rehashing all of the, different folklores of UFOlogy of the past.
Well, I do think it goes back at least a little ways, at least because I've been listening to a lot of Coast to Coast lately,
Yeah.
and I recently noticed that Joe Rogan has a portrait of Art Bell on his set, and I just was like, ugh. But no, it was a similar kind of thing. They'd have like I don't think it was as like rapid pace, but you definitely had like today we have one of the remote viewers. Today we have the next remote viewer. Today we have Lieutenant Philip J. Corso. It's a similar kind of media ecosystem.
Hmm.
And I think most of these podcasters are like literally basing their content method on Art Bell, which does make me incredibly sad because I think Danny
Interesting.
Jones is definitely doing the same thing.
Like
Uh,
playing dumb? Is that like what's the like asking questions without really ever taking any position? I'm trying to think of what they do.
yeah, you just have everybody on get interesting thinkers on. I mean, I guess you'd call them that. Like how I mean, I guess how else do you explain like Terrence Howard explaining his version of math on like a podcast with multi-million views? Like he'd appear on Art Bell. He's kind of the like
Mm.
backwards talking guy.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who records stuff and then listen to it backwards and be like,
Sure.
"Oh, what he's really saying here is
Yeah.
this," and there's this specific tone to his voice. Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. Like I think it at least goes back to at least some of radio.
We could probably trace it back to sideshows if we really wanted to.
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, I wonder if it's part of it is how a couple of years ago I read a great book. I can't remember the name of the author, but it's a biography of Bill Cooper, the conspiracy theorist. It was called
Is that
Pale
like
Horse
yeah,
Rider.
yeah,
Mark
that's a
Jacobson.
Jacobs, that's a
Yeah, that
great
could be
book,
it.
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great book, and I didn't know that much about Cooper. Of course, I had seen Behold a Pale Horse and like Walden books when I was a kid, and I always saw it in like the metaphysics section and thought the cover looked awesome. But every time I
Great
would look in
cover.
it, I'd be like, "This is kind of weird. I don't really know what this is." And now in retrospect, I'm really glad I never bought it. But it was a really fascinating book, and I don't want to sympathize with Cooper too much, but I think parts of his life were pretty tragic. But so much of, I guess what I'm trying to say is like so much of the UFO conspiracy and disclosure story was written like decades ago.
Yeah,
sort of
sure.
like you were saying, Tanner. Like it was really all in place. And Cooper claimed that he knew that he was read into UFO secrets because I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was when he was in Vietnam, he had a he was working right alongside like his naval commander, and he observed some of these documents like in a trunk in Vietnam, and he read all these documents, and then later, you know, in the 80s when like the MJ-12 stuff was floating around, Cooper would just say, "Yeah, I read that in Vietnam 20 years ago," and people, and then after MJ-12 was proven to be a hoax, some people who really took Cooper seriously um, kind of asked him like, "Hey, why did you say you read that, right?" And so like so many of these things have been around for a really long time, and it could just be. I mean, there's only so many ways that you can like sing the song of like the government has this secret knowledge, right? There's only like one or two kind of styles of saying that, and maybe there's just one, right? And Cooper did it first, and so we're
Yeah,
all kind of like retweeting him.
I guess it
Yeah.
reminds me of Michael Wolff and his book Catchers of Heaven. Just as like one of the dozens of, you know, iterations of this story. Of, you know, although his went truly wild into like
What is Catchers of Heaven? I don't know that one.
it's just his memoir. Sometimes just about his life, and then often
Hmm.
about his time in S4. This was like 95, I think, was when it was written. It was published in 96. So who
By
like it was
famous vanity press, Dorrance Publishing
Dorrance.
out of Pittsburgh, PA.
Mhm.
Oh, no
I
kidding.
It's one of my favorite books. It gets a little dark. If you like people who you know they're lying, but you're just kind of like along with it, you're just like, yeah, well, I'm in. That's It's a really beautiful and disturbing book, but that it's the same kind of story, except you know he'll take it to this like Baron von Munchausen extreme, where it's like, yeah, I was there, I was there, I was there. Like,
Hmm.
uh, I was good friends with Fellini for some reason. I was in Eight and a Half, like all this crazy stuff.
Well, wasn't Fellini was tight with Castaneda, right?
Castaneda, yeah. There's that whole episode where he was trying to make a
Yeah,
film about Castaneda, and then he was strangely getting harassed by like the metallic phone calls that was
mm,
an
I
epidemic in the whole Uri
yeah.
Geller 9 saga as well.
I
It's definitely
believe Michael
possible.
Wolff is what I'm saying.
You believe Michael Wolff? I believed Michael Wolff for years. But then, like a couple years ago, I talked to like one of his boyfriends from whatever, and he was like, "Yeah, Michael was just like, you know, not well," and he would just, and we all loved him for it, but you know, like he would just say this stuff, and you know, he got all these UFO people believing him, and like he started this foundation that wasn't, you know, it's so anybody who like seemed to like have a place in his life on a personal level was like, yeah, you know, like we all kind of just went along with it a little bit, but
Hmm.
when I first
Oh,
stumbled on that book, I was like, no, this guy's like lying a little bit, but he's probably telling the truth a little bit too. When I was probably like 21 or something when I was first reading that book. So I was like, let's do it.
I can't believe we missed out on the Fellini Castaneda flick.
Yeah. He was
That would have been
It could
crazy.
still happen
it's a crazy
with AI.
it's a crazy
That's right.
saga. I kind of forget what book it appears in, but it's also on the podcast that somebody did about Castaneda.
That was a good show. What was that
Um,
called? Damn.
I think that's who wrote the book. There's a new one out that's kind of based on
Uh,
the podcast, I think.
do you
okay,
I
remember
think
what
yeah.
the name of the podcast was?
If you, I
I
mean, you
I
look up,
would say it if I did, Ben.
yeah,
I
You would? I thought you were holding back, like, sort of out of a
no.
proprietary, like,
Yeah.
gatekeeping.
Well, not to bring us back, but I am curious, what was Cooper's explanation for why he said that he had read the MJ-12 documents in Vietnam?
Someone will have to fact check me after looking at the book, but um, just like we were talking about, like he did this sort of continuous thing as the UFO story grew, and as things like MJ-12 became popular, and as the UFO like whole mythos sort of expanded into the abduction stuff and other stuff in the 80s. Cooper would just continuously say like, yes, I knew about that. In fact, I had some like firsthand experience with this, and he
Yeah,
just continually expanded the knowledge he claimed with the UFO lore as it grew.
that's
And
classic.
MJ-12 was the one thing where I cannot remember who it was, but it was, for a while Cooper was part of UFO world. Like he presented
Hmm.
at MUFON. He was not a the sort of like rabid conspiracy theorist. Well, he was, but he was not necessarily considered like the rabid conspiracy theorist he's remembered as today. And the MJ-12 thing was one sort of like discrete data point where someone could say, Cooper, why did you say that you had read that when now we know like what it is? And he didn't really have a good answer for it, if I remember correctly.
I feel like that's super common. That like accretion. Well, I don't know what you'd call it. Just like, is that the right word? Where you're just continually expanding your own mythos to include
Hmm.
everything. Like Michael Wolff did that. People like Al Bielek certainly did that and influenced the culture quite a bit by doing that.
But yeah,
Um,
well, the reason I brought him up was because he had a radio show called The Hour of the
Hour of
Time, I think.
yeah, the hour of the
love
time.
that
Yeah,
show.
and it was also a call-in show, and he was sort of adjacent to like the militia stuff. Like
Yeah,
Timothy McVeigh went out and met with him, and so it wasn't necessarily an Art Bell thing, but it was you could call him and talk to him about your UFO story. He was definitely in that world.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was it hour of our time?
I thought it was Hour of the
The
Time of the
hour of the
Time.
time.
Hour of the time. Yeah.
Nice.
And I
I
feel
was
like he
gonna say
was.
I
Oh, go
don't
ahead.
want to say I also believe Bill Cooper.
Hey,
No,
let's
I
go.
don't.
I
I
love this.
don't believe Bill Cooper, but
Believe all of them.
I
Yeah.
I do find it interesting that if Doty was in Southeast Asia at the same time Cooper was, conceivably he could have read the documents and they were still fake, but they were there.
The
Yeah, good
Doty
point.
documents just got everybody. The whole scene. He just like the guy's prolific.
Yeah,
I
that
gotta
that makes
I gotta
sense.
go back and say I believe Michael Wolff too. I've been thinking about it this whole time, and I feel god awful about what I said a few minutes ago. I love that man.
Bill Cooper, by the way, just incredible radio man. I
Yeah,
one time I forget what episode it is, but I tried to do a fake Bill Cooper intro. I had like dogs barking and the siren sounds of his intro.
Nice.
Yeah, it was sweet.
you got to do that. And he was kind of involved with like shoot, what's his real name? Val Valerian, John
Mm,
Grace maybe.
yeah, it
Um,
was.
that like '90s super syncretic approach to conspiracy and ufology, where it's he'll have an issue of Leading Edge Research Journal, which was his publication, and it would be I don't know if Bill Cooper ever actually contributed, but it would be what was it? Krill? Was it like O.H. Krill? Is that the
Mm.
name?
Yeah.
Like there would be like 5 articles by this pseudonym, and then there'd be scanned newspaper articles like about monkey implants. Like it's just like this uh that '90s approach that we really are missing today, aren't we?
Wasn't he popularizing one of the more absurd JFK assassination theories
I'm
as
sure
well?
he had a couple.
Like
I
the
don't. Yeah.
driver had
Oh,
some
the
sort of
driver.
Well,
weird
that
weapon.
was Cooper's first thing.
Yeah, it was Cooper's
He
big thing.
he sold before the Zapruder tape was widely available. Cooper was on the road selling like a bootleg version of it,
Mm,
and he gave a talk where he claimed you could see clearly that in fact it was the driver who turned around and
hmm
and shot Kennedy. And so yeah, that was like his first thing, way before he got on like the UFO tip. He was a Kennedy assassination conspiracy theorist.
That's so common too, isn't it? I mean, you see that more than you'd think. Like Paris Flamand as well, another ufologist, kind of moved between those worlds.
Hmm.
And kind of like everything else, Cooper actually stole that footage, I think, from like real JFK researchers who were trying to do a recreation of the events essentially, because this is before the Zapruder film had come out. So I forget. Someone can look this up. You can find which people were putting this film together. And to be clear, the driver I don't think shoots him in the original footage, but the version that proliferated was just kind of like super zoomed in, so there was enough green and fuzz that it looked like the driver was pulling out a gun.
Right.
Yeah, I remember now. There was speculated that you almost got like fake footage or something too.
Yeah, well, and that made its way to like the octopus as well.
Yeah, right.
Not to
Who was
not
that?
to plug more getting spooked stuff, but
Yeah.
Robert Booth Nichols was going around with that tape, and he almost assuredly got it from John Weir, who Cooper was in tight with. Basically, some combination of those three had some version of that film.
Right. Lear is another super interesting guy. I guess he might have been involved with the Krill stuff. I think he might have written a few of those articles under that pseudonym, which is now being used to make like AI-generated UFO documentaries on Amazon Prime and Tubi.
No, when they first introduced AI, that is what I had hoped would be made, was Amazon documentaries about UFOs.
And they did for a little while. And that endless Seinfeld thing that I look back so fondly upon.
Not to like drastically change the tone of the conversation, but do you guys have like top Tubi?
Please, no.
Top Tubi UFO paranormal selections, or Prime or YouTube, any of like the really like schlocky streamers?
Not prepared, but geez.
You mean like for documentary type stuff?
Yeah, like paranormal or conspiracy documentaries.
You guys are probably familiar with this, but this goes back like 13 years ago now for me, watching the UFO TV documentaries. Incredible stuff. I don't know the guy's name that makes that, but it's a lot of still images, and it's just him like narrating this massive script. And I can't really speak to the content. They're great and wacky, but incredible accomplishments as like a one-man show, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch it, but my favorite thing that I found on Tubi in this realm was it was called like Dracula and Charles Manson, like an unknown connection. So
that's awesome.
I might go back to that, but I think it was just like one guy doing a PowerPoint. So I guess we'll see.
I mean, we gotta figure out what the connection is.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of this kind of old-headed conspiracy filmmaker named I think his last name is Mizuko. I'm not going to guess his first name, but he's famous for the 9/11 conspiracy film New Pearl Harbor, which is 5 hours long or something like that. And some other choice titles are Cancer, The Forbidden Cures, which I like that title a lot. And he did a documentary called UFOs and Intelligence, which I find fascinating that was his angle on it. As someone who thinks that like hemp will cure cancer or something, I just can never paint these guys into a corner. They're a very good filmmaker, genuinely. He did another movie called American Moon, which I currently have the top letterboxed review of. Not to brag.
What's you want to give us a little synopsis on that?
Moon landing hoax film?
Of the review?
Yeah.
It's just
synopsis of the review.
I can say the whole review. It's Mamma Mia, they faked the moon landing.
There you go.
Because he's Italian.
That's safe.
Yeah.
I thought it sounded Greek. Well, that's interesting. I do like the moon landing stuff. I'll pretty much always sit through, if I find one, a moon landing documentary. There's something very soothing about them.
About them landing on the moon.
No, that's not soothing. That's terrifying. I don't want them to have done that. That's not natural at all. It's like...
Yeah. Spoken like a true Bob Dylan fan.
That's right. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. A great UFO TV doc, by the way, is Aeon of Horus. It was kind of one of the first times I remember hearing the whole Crowley, NASA, Jack Parsons saga way back when. So definitely kudos to that cat.
That is a real mind blower when you first hear about it, like the Jack Parsons UFO Crowley NASA connection.
It is. I can see why people kind of sit with that for the rest of their lives and never really go further.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Well, I mean, I read Cosmic Trigger, the first Cosmic Trigger book, when I was like a sophomore in college, and
totally,
it could have been a whole different path. You know what I mean? Like that's a real like mind blower.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that book.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like quite even like as something, I don't necessarily I see Wilson, I guess in his own sort of like singular light. He was really doing something that in his own way, but yeah, it's an amazing book. He's a beautiful writer and obviously like he's the kind of freak we need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, where do you sit on Robert Anton Wilson, Tanner?
Well, I don't sit on him at all. That'd be rude.
Right. Yeah.
To sit on.
I would.
Him.
if you were to.
No, I'm a pretty big fan, especially when I was writing the book on Fort way back. A book I'm not that fond of anymore. But I suppose that happens to every book. But yeah, I read his book called The New Inquisition, which I think is probably the closest philosophical analog to what Fort's trying to do. And I find it very exciting and interesting. I don't think that many people have read that one. I kind of wish it had more love.
I haven't read that one.
Yeah.
It's like it's an attack on sort of like materialism, and before there was new atheism, just sort of like the scientism of the 90s, basically.
Yeah, similar kind of like scientific dogmatism. He's kind of just sick of it. And I guess there was already his scene was kind of already pushing back against that idea, but I don't think many of them really had like the chops to write like a small treatise about it. So I think pretty good.
That's a cool one.
Ben, where do you sit on Robert Anton Wilson?
I love Robert Anton Wilson. Aside from some aspects of his work I find too stubborn and like needlessly like entrenched in like a certain point of view that doesn't make sense and that didn't age well. I think the whole of his work is extremely valuable, and everything I've read by him has been useful to my thinking in at least like some way. So I think he's great, but complicated.
Yeah, I'd have to echo that. Definitely, probably an inspiration for our sort of MO in doing this show, I think. And I think when I was first kind of getting into a lot of this stuff, was definitely digesting a lot of Robert Anton Wilson's lectures and Cosmic Trigger, obviously. I'm curious, what are you talking about, though, Ben? What kind of stuff do you think didn't age so well?
I was just going to I don't think...
I'm going to cancel Robert Anton Wilson.
No. I like all that. All that stuff's good. What I'm saying is I love his strange excursions into like talking about black culture. I think that's that stuff didn't age well. But what I'm talking about is like the Discordian stuff, his kind of like sub-genius forays once in a while. All that stuff just doesn't really work for me anymore. Like the Discordian project I think was really interesting when it came out, and pretty groundbreaking, but for some reason it just kind of makes me cringe at this point in time. And it's so big a part of his work that you kind of I find myself stepping around it a lot of the time.
I think I've had a similar kind of development, and I think it's just because I see spooks around every corner now. I'm like,
Yeah.
Why are you doing the CIA's job for free?
Yeah.
Or alternatively, are some of you on the payroll? I don't think that was the case for the most part, but
well, Kerry Thornley maybe or whatever. I don't know what he was up to, but maybe not the payroll, but he was an odd duck.
yeah. I've never been able to sit. That's never sat right with me. That Thornley Oswald stuff.
It's odd. It's real odd.
It's strange.
It's spooky.
Yeah.
He found it.
Well, what do you guys think about this Charles Manson character?
He should have never done that.
Things would have gone down a lot differently if I was in that family.
Yeah.
No, probably not. I probably would have fallen under his spell.
Yeah.
How could you not? He's
If he
like
just did
a
his
wiry
like,
little guy.
you know, it's like weird movements. I would have been like, you know what? I'll follow this guy to the invisible earth.
I would just be like, you know, Dennis Wilson. All right.
We're all in jail, man.
I don't know. Even though it's kind of become like a cultural cliche again, I'm kind of interested in the Manson stuff. It still kind of gets me. If there's anything new about it that comes out, or if like somebody's saying something weird about it, I'm like, I gotta see what's up here.
It's kind of a nostalgic story, right? And like it puts you in that time and place.
It does, but it's also like a hinge point, and I find those really interesting. Like it's just so easy to think of it as this like, you know, end of the 60s thing.
Right.
And even that mythology feels interesting because, well, I mean, you know, there's just so much there, like the failure of protests and why like that movement fizzled, or if it really fizzle, like where, you know, did tactics just have to change? Was there MK Ultra involvement in the Manson thing? Was it just like COINTELPRO type stuff? I don't know.
I mean, I think even like setting all that to the side, I think the Manson stuff is super instructive and like helping me understand at least like why so many hippies ended up being like white power guys after
For
like
sure.
15 years. And that's like not a marginal thing at all for like aging hippies.
Yeah.
And the Manson thing is just really like one really clear moment where you can see the seeds of that, obviously in a super extreme and like stark way, and not every hippie who became a white power guy was involved with those people, but yeah.
And through like drug channels too, I think is probably like, because that's where those paths probably first met, I would think, is like motorcycle, sort of anarchistic, but then by the end, not really anarchist. I don't know. But yeah, no, that's a really interesting part of it, I think, too.
I can't remember. Did you guys review the recent Chaos documentary?
I think we did talk about it when it came out.
I don't think I even watched it.
It was really bad. I think I might have like said something on Patreon where I was like, man, that was really bad. And he didn't even look very happy with it.
Yeah.
Like as it was happening.
Was there anything new in there?
No.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I didn't watch it.
No, they have this opportunity to do something really interesting. You've got Errol Morris behind the camera.
I know, yeah.
And then they proceed to not use the Interrotron, as far as I can tell, which is why I love the Interrotron. Why would you take that away from me? And then the first like half of it is just rehashing the Tate LaBianca murders, which with little exaggeration are maybe the most famous murders in the United States, and you don't really need a refresh on them.
No, it was crazy. It could so easily have been about O'Neill, right?
Yeah. Or yeah, like you know,
the book, you know,
stuff in the Jolly West archives, things like that. You know, they barely talk about Jolly West.
No, yeah, it was rough. It was rough.
I think it's because Morris doesn't buy the thesis.
And he was like, but I'll still do it.
Yeah, which is interesting, right? Because he did a whole like 6-part docuseries. it's hard to put it nicely. He was defending Jeffrey McDonald, or at least sowing doubt in the Jeffrey McDonald case. Yeah, so I think he's resistant to the idea of like I don't know. I don't know what he's resistant to. You'd think he'd love brain-controlled hippies, but doesn't seem like that's the case.
I mean, even though the Chaos book sort of ends with a question mark, right? He doesn't like definitively prove, MK Ultra connection or anything like that. I think it does demonstrate at least that Manson was some sort of protected informant in LA for a couple of years, because he keeps getting it into like such shenanigans, and the cops just will not hang on to him. They keep turning him loose and like seemingly like hooking him up with stuff. And even that, I think, is the sort of like turning the table on this story and saying, actually, like the Manson case is not what we thought it was. Should have been the basis for a great documentary. But I agree, it was sort of a strange story.
Well, and I think too that the book is interesting because even if you're not able to prove that like MK Ultra connection, the like countercultural soup, I like that phrase, that Manson was brought up in, he's clearly like taking things from like Scientology. The Process Church one is a little more iffy, but it's Scientology with extra steps essentially. So he's clearly taking on some stuff he's learning from like the new religious movements of the time. And I find that in and of itself fascinating. Like, it doesn't have to be MK Ultra. It can just be this like weird stew of countercultural religious movements that are very attractive to people at the time.
Yeah,
and still,
I'd have to echo that. That's kind of how I felt about the book. It definitely just made the story. It gave it its complexity that it deserved, and I think the intention wasn't necessarily to prove the MK Ultra connections, although he would have loved for that to have happened. But the intention was just to disprove the Bugliosi narrative, right? That's why
that's right.
Started it in the first place.
Which he does beautifully.
Yeah.
And he gets to go back and sort of put the knife in Bugliosi's hand or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's that weird like enmity between him and Bugliosi for the whole.
And he like
book.
goes back to the pool house at the end and I think kind of presents him with what he found or whatever. If I recall correctly, that was stuff. When did that book come out? 2021 or 19?
I think. That was a pre-COVID book.
Oh shit.
No way.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Way. Because it came out for the 50th anniversary, yeah. The Summer of Love 2.
I thought it was I still think I think it's a very effective book. My dad has read it. My dad's not like a conspiracy head, but he's read it, and then I found him reading it again, So I think I find it effective, if not for anything else, that I get to see it in my dad's like house.
Yeah. You guys want to know what I'm reading about currently?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's pretty bananas. It's this book called A Fistful of Kings. Got the covers.
Oh, wow. It's a lot of kings.
It's very, very bizarre.
What's
and if you read the bottom here, it says, read this book and you could win an all-expense-paid vacation for 2 to Las Vegas, Nevada. See back cover for details.
Ooh.
And the reason I picked this up is because in the Paul Shatskin book about T. Townsend Brown that came out a few years ago, one of the major sources in that book says he's an anonymous source. And it's basically implied that he is a character in this book, this bizarre book with a vacation scheme on the cover, as a character called the Reverend, who's like a special ops guy. But in the T. Townsend Brown book, he's implied to be like a time-traveling CIA agent who used to work with like Bill Donovan. Uh, so yeah, that's why I'm reading that
That sounds
book.
great. I want to
Uh,
read that.
yeah, I highly recommend that Shatsky book.
What's it called?
The Man Who Mastered Gravity,
Yeah,
Mm.
okay.
and it is. It felt like it had been a while since I read like a book. It's kind of like what you were saying, Ben. Like you know that this is like not true, but
Uh-huh.
you're like, all right, I'll go along with it anyway.
Oh yeah.
Uh, because it does feel like I mean, I went all over the place with this because there were like forums I had to read to get like background detail, and there's so much stuff buzzing around this book.
On
Um,
Brown.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it seems like Shatskin had basically people contacting him as like anonymous sources, weird characters throughout, and yeah, it was a rare book because I very much enjoyed it, um, even if it was it kind of felt like I was in high school again and reading the day after Roswell again,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
it gave me a very nice feeling.
Now, I only know a little bit about the Townsend Brown story, except for that Ben's favorite podcaster, Jesse Michaels, is always talking about him. But
Who's that?
He had Paul Shatskin on to
yeah,
talk about T. Townsend Brown.
there you go. But what do you think the point of like the obsession of that mythology is, of like building this secret scientist to because it gets wrapped up into like the Philadelphia experiment and all this shit, right? Like anti-gravity, but also then time travel stuff. Like I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but if you can sense out any sort of reasoning of mythologizing this rogue clandestine scientist like that.
It's interesting, right? Because it's another case where it feels like there is a there. Um, he was probably working on some kind of classified project at one point in time or another. I think Nick Cook comes to the conclusion that he was working on basically like anti-radar detection
Mm.
material, because you could like charge the outside of an aircraft body to essentially do that. Um, and I think turning him into the flying saucer scientist perhaps occludes any sort of actual classified tech. But then again, it's been so long. You would think that tech would be common, at least within the military knowledge. But
Mhm.
It's amazing that like how much of ufology is just about radar, though. It's about images on radar, but it's also about like creating this radar mesh defense. Like the whole balloon fiasco was all about creating this radar mesh infrastructure and holes in our national radar mesh, and all of the tic tac images, everything comes from radar. It's the two are like married in this interesting way.
well, and I'm going to try to
Or
square
uninteresting
the
way.
circle a little bit because yeah, the T. Townsend Brown story, Tim Taylor has told Ryan Bledsoe. See, we're bringing a bunch of different people in. Listeners, just Google these people if you have no idea who
It's
they
like the
are.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And
Or it's like
he
Digimon,
said
really.
Tim Taylor said that he was part of the same Nassau group that T. Townsend Brown was part of,
Huh.
which
How old's
is
fucking
not
T.
is not
Townsend
that's
Brown?
not in any other book other than Shatskin's book. This idea that T. Townsend Brown is part of a top secret Nassau, Bahamas group.
Weird.
So it never ends. It's like an Ouroboros. Ouroboros?
Yeah, it is. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny, like I asked you that question, but then if I think about it, like how many decades did people get out of writing books about Tesla and hidden technology? and just, endless documentaries and stuff.
Well, I think interestingly, the person to connect Brown with the Philadelphia experiment was, you guessed it, Bill Moore did that not
Mr.
long
Bill.
before he wrote the Roswell incident. So I think that's again a case where there's a possibility he was being fed something. And the inclusion of Brown in the Philadelphia experiment book is like an intentional sort of like occlusion of a truth of some.
Bill Moore. What do we think of Bill Moore? Good guy? Bad guy?
What a pro.
I feel like there are podcasts
6 years
like that.
of consensus on reality, folks.
That's a genuine question.
6 years, baby.
I mean, obviously his speech is what I would call an all-timer.
That's
at
right.
the 1989 MUFON conference.
Love him or hate him, you watched. It's all you could do.
You know what? That's better than anything I could.
He's back.
That's how I feel about Bill Moore. William Moore. Sorry. Yeah. All these people. All right. I don't know.
Sorry, that was my fault. I keep bringing up different people.
No, it's good. These are we need to be serious with this audience. You just need to know these names.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to know them.
I imagine that's got to be super annoying. And there's...
Why? It's good.
Yeah, just, get a little... Ask somebody to write down this name, and then the one name they wrote down is like, all right, I'll check out this guy, Chris Bledsoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like anything else, though, where there's no good place to start. You just have to jump into the stream of it and figure it out. You can't, there's no beginning, really. I mean, you're going to, read Kenneth Arnold's book and then work forward from there. And,
where did you start? I don't think I've ever heard that question answered on
that's a great
this
question.
show.
Me?
Yeah, how did you get started in this? You've been in it a long time.
What was the first UFO book I read?
Whatever got you into it, really.
I have no idea.
Oh my God.
It's probably it might be a day after Roswell, to be honest.
Really?
I don't know. Probably I was in my early teens at Borders or something. We had Borders out here. And so I want to say it was one of those books that was coming out back then. So the thing that you could buy new. I don't think it was Communion. I don't think I read that till a little later, but it was that tier of of UFO thing. Certainly I don't have whatever it was anymore. I might have a copy of it, but I'm probably 5 copies later or something. But it was one of those books. I would think. That's a good question. That's going to bother me now because I don't actually know. But I feel like it was something like that. What about you?
Interesting question. I have I've nailed it down to 2 things. It was either I encountered Charles Fort in a young adult book called I forget the name of the young adult book, but Charles Fort's books are a tangent within the book. And it would quote from Charles Fort's Low primarily. And I was like, damn, I gotta read these books. And they were these big hulking 4 books that at the time it seemed like I could only get all of them in the same volume. So I started lugging around 1,000-page paperback everywhere. But then it might have also been Alien Agenda, the Jim Mars book.
Oh yeah.
Which I feel Mars is a bit hit or miss, obviously, but I think as far as introduction to everything, it's not bad. It gives you the basics on probably hundreds of different facets of ufology, at the point when it was written.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. It could have been History Channel. Now that I'm thinking about it, it could have just been like a documentary on TV in the background.
That's what I was gonna say. I think already at the point that I was, and I'm older than you, Ben, but already at the point that I was a teenager, there was, tons of UFO documentaries during the day on History Channel, and then I wish I remembered something else, but whatever, it's not that bad. I think the first thing I definitely copped probably was a David Icke book in Borders, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's all.
I'll hit you guys with a crazy one. So do you guys remember the movie Alien versus Predator?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there was a novelization of this movie. And if you remember the movie, there's a huge like ancient aliens component where the predators come to Earth. They teach human beings how to build pyramids all over the world for their predator stuff. And then they disappear after the aliens get out of control. And anyway, long story short, in the novelization of the movie, which I read because I was too young to see the movie, they make extensive reference to Eric von Däniken. And I was like, this is crazy. I got to find this guy's books. And so I read like all of Eric von Däniken, which he wrote a ton. He wrote like lots and lots of books. And yeah, I was like 12 years old reading Chariots of the Gods. And I was like, this is unbelievable. How come nobody talks about this?
I have to become a scholar of religion.
Yeah. And it was all because I picked up the novelization of Alien versus Predator. But no, I mean I was reading, the one thing that really comes to mind, there was this children's author named Daniel Cohen who used to write like UFO and paranormal and cryptozoology books for kids that would be in like school libraries. And for some reason they were only in school libraries, but I would just crush Daniel Cohen. And he has a great one that I still have called the Encyclopedia of Monsters, which is still a great like cryptozoology reference.
Yep, I've had that in the shop before. I love seeing his books around.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He just like awoke something deep inside me.
The Daniel Cohen
I think
trigger
I had
word.
that one.
Yeah, he had like, did he have something like UFO inhabitants or like flying saucer pilot, like something like that, where he's like going through the cases of like the different guys that came out of the ships.
There's a few like websites that pull his like bibliography together, but he wrote like triple digit books for kids like that. Yeah.
Whoa.
The other one, I think the first like UFO book that I don't know, not like that I took like quote unquote seriously was I read Mothman Prophecies when I was like 14. And that one really like sunk its claws into me.
Yeah, it's pretty undeniable for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be cool if mine was like, I found The Silver Bridge by Gray Barker. And I just found it very poetic and beautiful. And that just really, that set me on the right track.
Yeah.
But it's never like that, is it?
Yeah, I wish I could say like, oh yeah, I read Charles Fort at age 12 or whatever, but no, it was no, I saw Charles Fort's name in a young adult
I want to know what that book was.
I mention it somewhere.
If there was like a 10 or 12-year-old who was reading Charles Fort, I would be like, we have to take this kid to the hospital. We need to like help this person in some way.
I mean, maybe my parents did that. I don't know.
Yeah. One of those kids like wears a tuxedo for some reason. That's what I'm imagining. He just like goes to school like dressed up, and he's like, he reads Charles Fort.
Thankfully, I wasn't that. Thankfully, no tuxedo. No, but yeah, it's really interesting. These were all interesting answers, I feel like.
It's hard. I mean, it could have been X-Files. Like, I mean, the stuff was in the air, and it's always been in the air. Yeah. So I don't know, but I think it was the first book was definitely some kind of thing you'd buy at a Borders, though. Like, yeah, there's some magazines too that I can't remember anymore. Like that they just like have every month, and it would be like it was none that like I would, as a bookseller now, find and be like interested in. It was like, Y2K like trash tier like stuff that would have like post daily like world. What's the one with like the Bat Boy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that.
yeah, that's the one.
Esquire. Yeah, Weekly
Or
World News. It's like
yeah.
after that, but like glossy, like that kind, like, and it like you can never find it again because like it doesn't really have a trail,
Yeah.
like that kind of stuff that you'd see at like
Hmm.
the supermarket. That may have been something.
Yeah, I will say, I think when I first started to get serious about all this stuff in like my early 20s, I probably was way more interested in like Gnosticism and esoteric religious stuff, and the UFO thing was just kind of an unavoidable other conversation that always came up on early podcasts and stuff that I was listening to. So it was like it kind of went deeper in that direction because of that. But I think I was definitely more interested in the other side of it initially.
Where would you say the two things eventually merged?
Where did they merge or when?
Well, they just kind of do inevitably, but I'm curious as to when you eventually had that. You were cognizant of like, oh, the UFOs come into this.
Yeah, I mean it's baked into both. Anyone that's listened to Consensus Unreality's heard me yap about my interest in like the Nag Hammadi library and Gnosticism over the years, and I think that's kind of where you get like an alien god stuff. Not initially, but it's deeply ingrained in there. And then, I mean, if you start to peel back the orange in terms of like UFOs and flying saucers, I think you see alternative religion, in the earliest contactee stories of the late 40s and 50s too. So I've been very interested in George Hunt Williamson's books lately, and just such a fascinating figure.
He's great.
Yeah.
Have you ever read Nigel Kerner?
Oh
He
yeah,
did
yeah.
that for me. That was like I was probably like 21 or 22, like when I was really getting into it as well, and I was also kind of interested in like the weird, like I don't even know if I'd call it Gnosticism because I wasn't like reading like the actual like scholarship. I was reading like third or fourth generation like interpretations of it, and he was the one that bridged it over to the Greys being like these archons, and that was extremely productive for me as a young man. What was his book, like the Song of the Greys or something is one of them, and then there's the Gray Aliens and the Harvesting of Souls. That was big
That's cool.
for Ben.
That's cool.
They're crazy books.
Yeah.
They have like crazy color illustrations that are like computer generated, like genomes, like I don't know, some wacky stuff.
I feel like Kerner had a new one out recently.
I was just looking at that, and it looks like he does. It's Gray Aliens and Artificial Intelligence. It's what we wanted when we were going to read The Others by Pasulka.
What is Kerner's take on AI?
I want to know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I haven't read it.
So do I.
Well, it came out in 2022, so it's going to be a little different than whatever's happening now. But yeah, I didn't even know
he basing it off of like DALL-E generator stuff.
Yeah, he's basing it off of I don't know what was happening in 2022. I guess it was that
DALL-E. Yeah, Ben was sending me little illustrations he was making with DALL-E.
It's like a monkey that's dancing on a UFO.
Oh, look at how crazy this is.
This is I wish that was all. They should have stopped there.
Tim, I'm curious.
It looked better.
I'm curious if you have any comment on spirituality and UFOs, and if there's anything there that any specific works or things that you've found interesting that meet that intersection.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a huge topic. A few things off the top of my head, I would say the first book that really, like, I guess bridged these things for me. I mean, and it's like a classic, but the place where I went to undergrad had a copy of Passport to Magonia in the library, and this was like years before Anomalous Books reprinted it. So I was like very lucky I got to like read this one in detail. And this was a big one, just sort of like firmly connecting UFO stuff to not only European fairy lore, but like, supernatural folklore more generally. And I guess the other like touchstone I would situate UFO spirituality next to is especially like the first decade of the modern UFO phenomenon. The more and more that I learn about theosophy in particular, the more and more what the UFO occupants are really talking about is very much like theosophy in like a shiny white jumpsuit,
Totally.
you know?
Yeah.
And that's not even like that's really not meant to like reduce the UFO phenomena. The more and more I sort of like learn about theosophy in particular and like spend time with it, I think even as huge as it is sort of like underappreciated as like an immensely significant like philosophical and aesthetic like touch point, like nothing less than the origin of like abstract art and like, the more and more I dig into like the fiction of Algernon Blackwood, he is like a really, really beautiful, like theosophical thinker who becomes sort of like this font from which like the generation after him, Lovecraft, Howard, and Clark Ashton Smith, and all these people are writing from. But yeah, I mean, theosophy is this like totalizing, and I feel like this is a caveat you have to say in any of these subjects, except for the racial stuff. I wish we could leave the racial stuff aside. But yeah, I mean, I think theosophy and its relationship to the early UFO phenomena is really interesting and maybe a little bit understudied, and definitely like sets the tone for the UFO phenomena to come in the 20th century. And it's just sort of like effortless that when the spacemen arrive, they are talking about like universal truth and cosmic brotherhood and all of these things that by now are very familiar to people. But those are the two things I would sort of like, the two big connections I would draw.
Yeah.
Totally.
Certainly.
I think we're with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they get here, they kind of look like the Ascended Masters too.
Yeah, they just are. Yeah, it's sort of undeniable once you really dig into the theosophy stuff. I also will say like it's very much like spiritualism. If you read a lot of American newspapers and magazines from the 19th century, theosophy is easily as popular as like baseball or like or like music or it's like it's really, really popular. And because it was sort of like the new age milieu, it was all sort of contained in theosophy for a while. So it's hard to get a clear gauge on that without having like gone back and like read Blavatsky or like Besson or Ledbetter or any of these people. And it's right now we're far enough removed from theosophy that I think its influence actually is pretty difficult to pick up on, but it's really, really clear in the first decade at least of the UFO phenomenon.
Yeah, it's an incredible progenitor of not only the UFO phenomenon, but also the New Age movement that would come. And a lot of, political stuff comes out of theosophy too. It has very real tangential effects in the world. Alice Bailey and her influence on the British Parliament and stuff, I believe. I have to agree with that. And I think Adamski, of course, I think he was originally sort of doing theosophical lectures before contactee stuff, and it's got its fingerprints all over George Hunt Williamson's stuff as well. It's probably it's a lot in the, even if you look at the early Borderland Sciences stuff, which I really like. It's tethered to seance culture, and a lot of the themes that you're talking about that come out of theosophy and that ilk of spirituality.
And I like the way you put it a while ago, Tanner, like the, ufology has sort of lost the magic or like the wonder or something like this, right? And at least for me, like all of like the magic and wonder is just like pouring out of this stuff. You know what I mean? It really is like beautiful and like fascinating and perhaps naive, but I think also like very optimistic about the human place in the cosmos, right? And even if I got to be honest, I've taken a few cracks at Blavatsky trying to read those books. They're tough. I read really tough stuff for a living sometimes, but like those are tough ones. I don't know if I'll ever make it through those ones, but everything else is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like Besant and Ledbetter are both a little more penetratable.
Hmm.
I also I've tried the Secret Doctrine, and I'm like, you know what? Probably not for me.
Life's too short
Yeah.
for some. It is.
Uh, but yeah, I think that's definitely true. It used to have, um, yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting that uh, a lot of the framing around UFO religion today, like this is Pasulka and a few other different scholars as well. Uh, they kind of act like this is like a new development.
Mm-hmm.
This is a novel like UFO religion, but uh, they will often acknowledge that it there's always been spirituality around UFOs, but I would argue that it's always been the same strain of religion to a certain degree. It's a bit more technologically advanced now, but that just sort of matches, you know, Theosophy and the UFO religions. The contactees were technologically of their time, and
Hmm.
it's just kind of advanced to what we're on now. Sorry, I could have phrased that better, but I think you get what I'm saying.
There's
that
an
makes sense.
interesting framing with Catholicism in her books. And I hate to. I find her stuff very interesting. We said this when we've covered every single one of her books on an episode, and yeah, I don't want to pit her as like some sort of messenger of deception or something, because I think she's just honestly researching this stuff. But I also think it's useful to some other web narrative that I'm sort of curious at trying to get a look at or something. Like the I guess what I'm trying to say is it is the religiosity of that brand of religiosity of the UFO thing is just an interesting object, and I'm curious how it's being steered or maneuvered and why. But that's not to denigrate her writings about it. And I think she kind of touches on the theosophical connections a little bit in this new one, right, Ben?
It's in there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, see, I'm speaking too soon because I haven't
No,
read it yet.
I mean, it's not. I don't think she's like making like this the main point of her. Like she's not tracing a lineage of spirituality from like theosophy to ufology, but she does like, yeah, she says something about it, I think.
Well, I think that's sort of what I'm getting at. Like there are parallels drawn, but they're kind of made distinct in a way that I don't necessarily. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I'm more of a historian than a religious scholar, but
Well, yeah, I think she's trying to talk about it as like, I mean, this whole invisible college thing is a big part of her work, and I think she's really trying to push that as like this sort of almost like not puppet master style thing, but like, these really powerful people behind the scenes. This is what they really believe. Can you believe it?
And there's some
Like I
sort
feel
of divinity to it, and to me
yeah,
that fits the whole cathedral thing of like the teal and all of that, and uh you know
yeah,
supplanting something else over like democratic government, and I don't know, they could go in all these crazy directions, but you could sort of
Totally.
see that in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
now even early theosophy had, contactee theosophy had George Hunt Williamson.
D-
See, I'm completely
William Dudley
misspeaking
Pelley.
now. That's the
Mm,
guy.
Yeah.
hmm.
sure. But
Uh,
yeah, right. They had some people.
but
Some
that's not to say like the like spirituality itself is the cause of these things.
Yeah.
Uh,
And he's the progenitor of the term soul craft. Like he is kind of the
Oh,
one
really?
that really places the two together. I guess in his books. I'm not sure Adamski does it so blatantly as Pelly does.
Yeah, that's the name of his newsletter.
I do think we don't have to dwell on the Pasulka books, and I haven't read the others yet. So maybe someone can fact check me on this, but I do think sometimes she gets some heat for, like, she writes these books that are, at least the first two, kind of like ethnographic in that she's speaking to these people, these scientists, these insiders, and she's sort of letting them speak for themselves, and then giving kind of her perspective or her analysis on it. And I do think sometimes she's sort of criticized as like a naive sort of mouthpiece for like the Tyler D sort of figure, which I don't necessarily think is true. And ultimately, like these are the things you expose yourself to when you write a scholarly book. It goes out there, and then people kind of get to say what it is for you. The teal stuff, I don't really have an explanation for, but yeah.
I think that's just where it is right now. That's like where the story is, where maybe it was 5 years ago when the other one came out, but I think way more now. That's kind of where this interest is sitting in the upper echelons. Although not everyone in her book is like a sort of like tech billionaire. There's other people in it as well that are, their stories are told. Some of them sort of, it's not clear why. Like some of it doesn't quite hang together that well, but yeah.
Yeah.
Squonking. All right. Do you think we should wrap up Squonk Chat 1? We need like we should got to make like a Squonky Talk.
Squonk Tonk.
Squonky Tonk or Squonky Talk?
Squonky Talk. Like
Squonky Talk.
TONK.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Tonk? Like honky tonk.
Yeah, Squonky Tonk.
Fucking mouthful. Yins are putting a mouthful on these people over here.
Well,
come on down to the Squonky Tonk.
We need to make like a squonk sound effect.
What's it sound like? It's
whimpering.
Yeah, just be crying.
Yeah.
That puddle sound effect, maybe.
It's a bizarre animal, isn't it? Such a strange animal.
Not an animal. Not yet known.
It's an animal, right?
Can you imagine if Squonk was like the one cryptid that it was like, we caught one?
Yeah.
Someone just like shot, if that was the one that a hunter killed, and it was like, that one was real, actually.
But if you shot it, would it disappear into a puddle of its own tears?
Oh, that's true. I forgot. It melts into its own tears.
Yeah.
You could probably mortally wound it before it's able to do that. Though.
Yeah.
It's really
not to say Squonk, watch out.
But people will say it's AI.
Be so happy. That would make me see, the magic in the world again if Squonk was real.
If there's anything to learn from this episode, is that you need to see that magic again as soon as you possibly.
You gotta see the magic.
We need to get this guy some magic.
Yeah.
Oh God.
All right, we'll put Tanner's address at the end of the episode. You can mail him some magic. All right. Thanks for listening to this episode. We're going to do this again sometime, so we hope you enjoyed it. Who knows where it'll go next time? I don't. Thanks for listening, as always.